In this video, I'm going to take you through my 5 mistakes you do not want to be making ahead of your ACCA SBL examination for the December 2025 sitting for the case study and pre-scene information of Levwell Plc. My name is James, and if you'd like access to my exclusive SBL notes you can see above me and I'll take you through in this video, click the link in the description and you can download a copy yourself. I'm also delighted to say I'm affiliated and associated with the Stranti, who design mock examination papers and pre-scene analysis packs specifically on the pre-scene information for Levwell Plc. So if you'd like to check those out, click the link down in the description below. They're definitely going to help you to pass because you could be doing questions on the pre-scene materials. And for pure transparency, as always on the channel, if you were to purchase anything, I'd be entitled to a small percentage which goes to supporting the channel and the content. And as always, a massive, huge thank you. I'm so pleased the detailed notes are helping you with your revision. And as you can see, maybe this is the first video you've watched of them. Oh my word, James, look at that. Gosh, that's going to save me hours. Well, the first mistake you do not want to be making when interpreting these is all linking to the financial information and the KPIs. Now, first of all, we'll just go through them one by one because I made this mistake when I first went through it. Revenue wise, you can see nice little tick on there. It's been increasing year on year. From a SWOT analysis perspective, it's a strength. And I've also done the calculations that you could apply on the exam as to a 5.53% increase from 2004 to 2005. All good stuff. However, let's move on to the operating profit margin. And if you were to be rushing and doing this the night before the exam, you'd kind of be going, well, it seems pretty flat and the revenue's been going up. And it could be an argument that you could say that better cost management would actually increase that operating profit margin higher on there. Perfectly reasonable to make, and an argument that could come up to it as well, because the operating profit margin is a percentage, and the fact that it's remained stable with increasing revenues is actually also not a bad thing as well. But just remember that 14.1% operating profit margin for 2005. If you go up to page 4 now in the notes, if you've downloaded them, and you can see on one little line, we're told the operating profit margin for hotels in Estland is typically around 10%. So the fact that they are actually at 14.1 for Levwell Plc, that's really, really good, and you should make that comparison. If something came up in terms of costing or profitability, I would definitely get it down. Same thing with occupancy rate on the left-hand side. And you can see, I looked at it first of all and went, 75, 78, 76, 77. Well, if you actually go up to page 7, where the KPIs link into the financial information and the diagrams, we're told in the occupancy rate that the annual average occupancy rate above 70% is considered good for hotels in Estland. That's why I've got it down as a massive key point. You could look at it on one side and go, well, if we're at a 77% occupancy rate, those are empty rooms, loss of income, but it's really going to show up someone who's read through the pre-scene notes and fully understood them, that it's actually in a good position at 77% for Levwell at the moment. For the RevPAR, so this is where we're looking at actually how much we're actually getting in terms of the hotel from revenue compared to the rooms sold, and it's been increasing year on year. Really good for you to get down on there, a real positive in terms of a SWOT analysis. Guest satisfaction, this is a key important area. You can see it again on page 7 for hotel success. It's one of the USPs that when guests come to actually stay at a hotel, one of the main drivers as to why they will pick one hotel over another is the satisfaction that they have there. So seeing it at about 4.4 is really good, and it's been consistent over the years. And lastly, employee turnover, seriously high there at 39%. And this is where it's a massive challenge in the industry. You can see in my notes, page 12, page 5, page 6. And it doesn't actually align to the values of, apparently they look after their employees on there. So hence it has to link into a SWOT analysis weakness point on there. But it's just to give you a clearer picture and not to make the mistake of misinterpreting them. And the final thing is, go back up to the KPIs on page 7. That is where it links into those diagrams. So just make sure that you're aware in terms of the different aspects that we've been given the graphs for. And as you can see on the side there, we're not given a graph or actual data for the average daily rate and also the average length of stay. could also come up on the exam day. So lots in there in the first mistake not to make. Number 2, or mistake number 2, is all about the size and scale of Levwell and not misinterpreting it. Now the key thing here is on page 8, you can see on the right hand side, and for perspective, they're really established. All the hotels are bespoke on there. It's not as if they're all designed exactly the same. They have 35 hotels, and each of those hotels, they have 80 guest rooms for it. So again, just sort of setting the seed as to the background information. Based in Estland, they don't trade internationally. They don't have any global hotels, just based in Estland. But if you come up to pages 3 and 4, you've really got to wrap your head around actually that we have here that from a business model perspective, Levwell Plc is owner managed and is also a chain in terms of the industry structure. I think they could throw up something about maybe changing to actually franchising out or linking into independent hotels, so make sure you don't get that mixed up in there. And then also on page 4 on the right hand side, where we've got Beston, Travelwise, Vacances, Yelton and Halliot, that's the only place those company and hotel chain names are actually mentioned. I think they could come up on the exam, or the marker will be expecting you to apply them. And this is where you've got to think about that perspective, that the number of hotels that Levwell has was 35. You can see in my notes, I'll put my mouse on it. Look at the biggest 5. They've got 504 hotels, 288. And also, the average number of rooms in those hotels, Levwell only has 80. Some of these have got 150, 140, 145, different models as well of being franchised. So if you were maybe trying to make a growth point, that is another factor just to be aware of. And when you're making these points about, are they doing quite well? Should they stick as they are? I think Levwell's actually doing pretty good for the size that they are currently actually at the moment. But when you've got to be linking it to the economic downturn that they've been suffering in recent years in Estland, the rising costs in terms of interest rates, high inflation on there for it. So again, it's the economic downturn that has had a major impact. But looking at the hotel, how it's been performing in Estland, it's been doing quite well. So that's why the size and scale, and actually Levwell as a business, interpreting it correctly and making sure you understand the full ins and outs, has to be mistake number 2 not to make. Mistake number 3 not to make is all about page 9 now. So I'm going to take you down here, and this is about the income sources of the hotel industry. First of all, on page 9, and I'll put my mouse on it, you can see in the sources of income pie chart on there that food and drink represents 33% of the sources of income. Now, a student who's a bit rushed or they panic on the exam day will go, oh, hotel industry, they must rent rooms. But the thing is here, Levwell, they only allow guests staying at their hotels to actually eat in the restaurants and use the bar. However, the other hotels, we've actually been told on page 4, so come back up in the notes, you can see it on there yourself. So you can see it on the right-hand side there. I'll put my mouse on it. The restaurants and bars in many hotels are open to non-residents, meaning people who are not staying at the hotel can buy food and drink in its restaurant or bar. So that's where Beston, Travelwise, other hotels in Estland are actually taking advantage and growing their revenue streams. Could be a massive opportunity if a SWOT analysis came up that you could refer to. And it's those other sources of income, just to make sure that you apply the percentages. And also, it's just a little thing, but they've got down there, private events in the other section of 5%, another opportunity to grow those sources of revenue and something for you to talk about on there. And when we're talking about the sources of income and how much they're actually generating, you kind of got to think, well, who's actually going to be doing this? And it links into the final point at the bottom, the pricing policy. And this is staggering on here, but I think some students will mix up when these prices are actually done, and they've mentioned about technology and having AI and doing it more continuously. But currently the pricing policy is at the start of each financial year, the head office sets the price or the room rate on there. And also you've got hotel managers who have the authority to apply a 25% discount. How is it not being tracked and updated more often for the peak seasons and the lower, the peak seasons and the lower peak seasons? And that's where, why is it just at the start of the year? Why not even quarterly or every month on there? That is a massive, huge thing to wrap your head around. And don't make the mistake that the pricing policies is happening all the time. It's at the start of the financial year and is done by Levwell's head office on there. Right, mistake number 4 are the key success factors for a hotel. You've got to come up to page 6 for this because you've got to get your head around it. So first of all, overall as a statement, you've got to be able to apply, I'll put my mouse on it there on the right hand side, the most important underlying factor which contributes to a hotel success is the guest experience on there. And that's where we're given lots of other supporting factors for it, and these are the other things about hygiene, cleanliness, security, staff, all these supporting factors. Careful not to actually confuse them on there and get them all mixed up, but these are the sort of things that we've got to be looking at in terms of if the hotel is going to be successful and things are going to go wrong on your exam day. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but that is definitely something you could link it back to. And the other factor that links into that as to actually having a successful hotel and producing a good guest experience, you need good staff for that and to actually have good processes in place. Well, we're told on here that they have deliver exceptional service to our guests and act socially responsible, and we take care of our staff. But the key one to get down from the mission is that they offer an exceptional experience for every guest every time. And you kind of go, I think something's going to come up on the exam day that they're not going to have a good time, and something might happen to some of the staff members not feeling valued, and that can link into that KPI we touched on at the start about the employee turnover being so high, them actually not taking care of the stakeholder group. And you can refer to some of the other elements that we're told about the employees on page 11 to really hit home as to their poor mismanagement of such a key asset to the business, which are the staff. Now, mistake number 5, last but by no means least, is not understanding the inventory in enough depth, and lastly, applying it to the scenario. So you've got to get good about the hotel industry, the ins and outs, the different factors, and that's where it comes up to page 2 to start out about the types of guests, splitting out business and leisure, understanding that the leisure guests tend to be more price sensitive, so that's why I've got my mouse on it on the side there. I think some students are going to get mixed up that they'll see I know it seems logical, but when they might see the one, they might go, oh, one might mean the best actual hotel on there for you. It can just happen under the exam pressure, and understanding the variables of room quality, service quality, and range of facilities that link into increasing the rating. I think as well, understanding what Levwell would need to do to become a 5-star hotel would be one thing. So you've got world-class luxury personalised services. But the other thing I'd be thinking of is, well, maybe we might have a scenario where they might actually lose their 4-star and they may get demoted down to a 3-star on there. And that's all about the judgment of the amenities and looking at that actual body on there who will be doing their inspections. Maybe an inspector might come round and see the fitness centre, the swimming pool are not up to standard, and therefore could be a demotion down to 3-star. How will that actually impact on their actual demand for the hotels? Pages 9 and 10 really go through the logistics of a hotel, the ins and outs, the key activities, the processes. And the one thing that really stood out to me on here in terms of the actual checking in and checking out was this one here. I'll put my mouse on it. So at checkout, guests pay for their accommodation plus any additional purchases. And I kind of went to myself, well, why are they paying after? So guests pay for their accommodation plus any additional purchases they made during their stay on there at checkout. Majority of the time you actually pay for that when you actually check in or beforehand, because you don't want some guests turning up and then not paying or anything on those lines. So logistic wise, there are room for improvement, different areas in terms of maintenance and catering. They've also put in there the different breakdowns in terms of the stakeholder groups. I personally think the information systems, we're told about an IT manager you could refer to, lots of technology points that you could link it back to in a pestle analysis on there. really key ones. And I just think something to do with technology could come up that you could actually link it to. We're told about innovation and business developments there, hotel apps, and last but by no means least, the yield management software about utilizing historical data to actually increase the effectiveness and high profit margins. Are they actually going to take the opportunity there that you could relate to it in a SWOT analysis, invest the right amount of capital to create the growth for there, or potentially that sale and lease back and changing the structure of the organization? Is it a good thing to go to or not? And that's where you might see other models and theories of the SBL syllabus that could be applied. So that is mistake number 5, not understanding the industry in enough depth and applying your answers back to the scenario and the requirements set on the exam day. And that takes you through my 5 mistakes not to make. So be sure to subscribe and please feel free to like the video if you found value in it. Check out the Astranity mock papers based on the preceding information down below. And if you'd like a copy of my exclusive notes, you can also download a copy. I've put the link down there. So what I'll do now is I will put another SBL video above. Make sure you click it. I'll see you on the other side for another video to get you the 50+ to pass your exam. So thank you very much.